up, Otaku Hotties? It's your girl Sweet Tea back at it again, and today we are going to be talking about You Season 3, and y'all, when I tell you that this season was absolutely crazy, like it was crazy, like this season was wild. This season was wild, okay? Y'all, if you thought that the previous seasons of You got crazy and you didn't think that they can top themselves and get any crazier, season 3 basically says, hold my beer because we about to get silly up in here, okay? Just a warning, there will be spoilers in this video for You Season 3. So if you have not watched You yet, or Season 3 of You, I need you to pause the video, stop what you're doing, go watch the show, and then bring your butt back here so we can talk about it together, bestie. Anyways, y'all, like, I was shook when I was watching this season. Like, the twists and turns, the murder here, murder there, murder everywhere. Like, it was absolutely insane, just like Love and Joe are. It's the fact that, like, in the first episode, like 15 minutes in, Joe's already got the hat back on and going back to his stalking ways, and I'm like, oh shit, here we go again. And then at the very end of that episode, someone just gets murked, like, immediately. So I knew off the bat, off the rip, after what went down in episode 1, that this season was not going to let up. Alright, so overall, here are my thoughts and critiques with season 3 of You. It was very fun to watch. Like, I really enjoyed this season and following the story of Love and Joe and how they're navigating their relationship within this marriage, and now they're parents, even though neither of them should be a parent. That poor baby Henry, okay? It was really fun to watch that dynamic. The twists and turns were interesting. I did feel like it got a little bit over the top about how easy it was for them to be able to cover up some of these murders that they committed. And I'm just like, is that easy to murder someone and get away with it? Yeah, so that got a little bit over the top in my opinion, but it was still fun to watch. And honestly, I feel like the show got a little bit slow in the middle of the season, but it really picked up towards the end. I would say like I'm like halfway from 6 to 10, that's when things really picked up, because there's like this lull period that takes place in the season. But I think that's because like Joe and Love solved a huge problem, and there's like this little period of peace before the next problem starts, you know, like that's kind of what happened. I will say though, one thing about the season and just kind of how I feel about You overall is that I would like to see like a little bit more stakes and consequences involved in the show, because at this point it's getting a little bit redundant with how they're able to get away with these crimes and whatnot, and I would really like to see the past starting to catch up with them, you know, like maybe they're starting to get sloppy, not covering their bases, and seeing some consequences for their actions, like starting to hit harder a little bit than they have in the past. I will say though, there are some consequences and like they do have their own like effect, but like I kind of want to see something a little bit different from You in season 4. I don't know if that what I'm saying is making sense to y'all, but that's just kind of how I feel. However, like, we do see in the show that the main characters, Love and Joe, like, they are trying to change, but were they successful? I mean, Joe became more self-aware of his issues, but like, that doesn't mean he got any better. I would say though, this is premium gas. You as a series is premium gas, and it will have you hooked, like the thrill, the suspense, and Joe narrating always takes me out. The narrating just really adds on to the show, especially because Joe's trying to justify his actions through his narrating and why he thinks the way he thinks, why he does the way he does. And it's like you wanna root for Joe, but at the same time you're like, nah bro, you gotta go to jail. Penitentiary is where you belong, for real. All I'm saying is though, we didn't have that narrating It would just be Joe standing there like, that would be what we would have if Joe was not narrating, because half the time it's just Joe standing there in silence like But alrighty, now I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the characters from this season. So first, we gotta talk about our homeboy Joe. We start off this season with Joe being like, he hates where he is in life right now. Like, if you remember from like season 2 at the very end, basically Love tells Joe that she's pregnant so Joe doesn't kill her, and Love and Joe get married and raise this child together. And then they moved to the suburbs to raise the baby. And Joe is basically saying like the suburbs is like this white picket fence American dream hell. He does not like being in the suburbs. It's absolute hell to him. He's not satisfied with his life. He's not satisfied with his marriage. And then he's even not satisfied with the baby because the baby ended up being a boy instead of a girl. Joe did not like that baby. Joe did not like that baby at first, okay? So he was really struggling, and that's why his eyes started wandering, and he peeped old girl Natalie, his next door neighbor. However, though, when Love discovered the box and Love found out that Joe was being good old Joe again, what does Love do though? Love doesn't just talk to Joe about the problem. Love doesn't confront Joe or confront Natalie. She just kills her, just murks her with an axe. And I was just absolutely like, yo, I'm shook. But I just think it's so funny though, how Joe thinks that Love is crazy and insane. But Joe, you're the same thing, dude. Like, y'all are two peas in the pod, two sides of the same coin. You are one and the same, and you have the audacity to try to say Love is this crazy murderer who's mentally not stable. And I'm like, you're the same basically. You're just a bit more calculated and not as impulsive as a Love, but y'all both still crazy. However, though, I did find it really interesting, like throughout the season, how Love and Joe do try to work on their marriage and their relationship to one another, like they go to couples therapy to talk out their problems, and that counselor was gathering both of them and like dragging both of them, which I really liked to see, and then you get to see them fall in love with each other again, and then they get bored with each other and they kind of fall out of love with each other. So it's an interesting way to kind of like cover how people can fall out of love in relationships. And that's definitely what happened here with Joe and Love and their situation. However, though, like I mentioned earlier, it was really interesting to see Joe become more cognizant of his actions, and like he actually did try to be better. Like Joe actually tried to do better and like resist his urges and impulses to an extent, but then like it was his version of change. So instead of collecting a box of items that belonged to the person that he was obsessed with, he wouldn't take anything with them. He would just observe, like partially feeding his impulses and stuff like that. But I also liked how this season kind of touched more on Joe's past and his past trauma, which fed back into why he is the way he is. I thought that was interesting, and then coming back to him realizing that he has mommy issues, he has abandonment issues. Joe was entertaining this season. Joe and Love together, that was a duo that, man, they were both crazy together. Speaking of Love, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Love. I'm not gonna hold you, she kind of got on my nerves this season because she was such a hypocrite throughout the season. Like, she would be getting mad at Joe for doing things and obsessing over someone and cheating and this, that, and the third. But then Love turned around and did like the same thing with this college boy. And the gag is, the college boy is the neighbor's son. You killed his stepmom and now you messing with him? Like, you messing with her stepson after you killed the mother? Like, girl. But not only that too, but Love was just so impulsive this season. Like, she would just kill people and attack people without second thought, without thinking about the consequences of her actions. For example, there's this one episode where Henry, the baby, gets the measles from someone who's unvaccinated, and lo and behold, it's this guy named Gil, because him and his family don't believe in vaccines. And then Love, because she's angry about him being an anti-vaxxer because he put Henry in danger, like him and his family did, she just whacks him over the head and like puts him in the box. And I'm like, she doesn't kill him at least, but like, girl, love. I just feel like Love would have been, if Love was more calculated like Joe, she would have survived that last encounter that her and Joe had. Because for a moment though, like Love had Joe like on the brakes, and Love was going to kill Joe at the very, very end of the season. But Joe, bro, Love was playing checkers and Joe was playing chess the entire time. Like Joe was very calculated. And I want to say like that difference is also noted when Love and Joe build the cage again, and Joe hides his key in a false shelf, whereas Love hid her key in just like at the bottom of this flower jar. Like she wasn't really thinking too much about her hiding place. And that kind of speaks to how Love is as a person. Like she does think ahead in a bit, but like when emotions and stuff gets involved, she just gets really impulsive and doesn't think things through like she doesn't. And then another thing that got on my nerves with Love is that like she would create half of the problems in the show. Like she would create so many problems for them to solve and would expect Joe to fix the problems that she solved. Then would blame stuff on Joe too, because Joe led her to her creating the problems. And I'm just like, girl, where's the accountability? Where's the accountability? Because there was none. And I want to talk about Marianne briefly. I thought Marianne was a really interesting character, and I can see why like she really intrigued Joe, because Marianne was not afraid to check him. Like she was checking him, especially in like the missing white woman phenomenon episode. Like, man, Marianne was clearing him, checking him, reading him for filth, if you will, okay? And not only that too, but like Marianne and Joe had like things in common. Like they both had a love for books and art and whatnot. So I could completely understand why like Joe was falling for his boss and whatnot, because Joe worked in the library too. And then like at the end of the season, we do see Marianne ending up running away with her daughter. Will we see Marianne in the future? Maybe, because if you remember, like Joe went ahead and faked him and Love's death and ran off to Paris to go find her. So I feel like we may see Marianne in the future, because Joe's out there looking for her in Paris. And well, he's Nick now. Sorry, not Joe, but he's Nick. Then I briefly want to talk about Theo. Theo was the college boy that Love was sleeping with. First of all, poor Theo. I kind of knew something was going to happen. Like, I'm surprised he made it out of there alive. Like, he barely made it out of there alive. But Love, and Theo. Theo was just a simp, unfortunately. I hate to say it like that, but he was simping. And he was simping so hard that it almost got him killed. So if this taught you anything, and you really like someone and they don't really like you like that and they're using you, be careful, y'all, because you are a means to an end. Love was using him as a means to an end ultimately, because overall she really wanted Joe. That's who she really wanted, but Joe didn't really want Love like that, you know? So Love was just using Theo to get what she wanted out of him until it was time to put him away, cast him aside, and that's what happened to him. The last two characters I want to talk about are Cary and Cary Conrad, y'all. These couples, especially Cary Conrad, they were irritating, but in like a fun way. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I enjoyed them as characters because they added on to the show. Like, it was easy to hate them, but at the same time too, like, they were funny and they added on their own little spice to the show, which I actually enjoyed. Especially Cary Conrad. Like, boy, was she a character. What I really liked though that this season kind of revealed, especially through like the Conrads, is that like everybody in like this picture perfect white picket fence life has their dark sides to them, especially like Cary and Sherry. They were these like influencers. They were really rich. They were like, they basically kind of ran the town together, this, that, and the third. And they were capitalizing off of like other people's misfortunes. Like Sherry was capitalizing off of the death of Natalie and just different things like that. And they made it seem like they had a picture perfect family and a picture perfect marriage, but in reality it wasn't like that. And we saw that in the Swingers episode where Cary and Sherry are trying to get down with Joe and Love, but then Love has like an outburst with Joe and then reveals that she killed Natalie and they overheard this. And then that results in them getting kidnapped by Joe and Love. And literally they are in a life or death situation. And that forces them to reflect and work through their marriage through like the trauma and pain that's been inflicted on them. Like they're forced to work through it together. And I'm just surprised though that they made it out alive throughout of all of this. Like they actually got out alive. Cary grazed Sherry and shot her ear off. And because of that, Cary shot him in the leg. Like it got really intense. And I thought one of them was actually gonna die. But hey, because they found Love's key that she hid in that flower jar, they made it out alive. So I thought that was interesting. And the fact that they are capitalizing off of their experience as like talk about like marriage counseling and whatnot was right on brand for their characters. Overall, I really enjoyed this season of You. It was very fun to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it and I cannot wait for season 4 and what that's gonna hold for us, because this dude Joe's in Paris now. Like like he's up in there now, okay? So we'll have to see how he navigates his life differently or similarly to what he did back in the States. We will see. So I would give this season an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like what I had to say, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to stay notified for when I upload new videos. And let me know down below in the comments, did you guys enjoy this season of You? What did you like? What did you dislike? What was something that threw you for a loop? I would love to hear your thoughts. That is all for today's video, and I hope you all have a fantastic and lovely day. Bye-bye.